This is our latest installation of conversations. And it's because we like to have conversations. It's not that we're trying to come to a conclusion or we're trying to tell someone something. We're trying to communicate. And sometimes, especially where you're at or where I'm at, or depending upon how we're listening or what we're listening to, it's hard to communicate. I mean, most people nowadays, the best that they can do for communication is, 14 sentences or 14 words? Texting? I can tell you this. I took journalism class and I took English classes in order to learn how to write. So I could take one sentence and I could make pages out of that one sentence and make it work in a way that still said only one sentence, but I was able to expand it into at least one giant page, maybe 2 pages. I was pretty good at it. Likewise, in the same class, I had to take often many writings and reduce it down to texting. So I think my teacher would have really appreciated this last generation that can text so well, or maybe they're not doing so well with their texting. So one of the things that we do in conversations is we like to talk. We like to kind of like discuss different parts of all the questions that may be about some conversation we're having. And today I'm really having a conversation about hoof and mouth. You know, hoof and mouth, sticking your foot in your mouth, sticking somebody else's foot in your mouth. One way or another, opening your mouth and getting something stuck in it. Doesn't always taste so good. Trust me, I've done it a lot. I have chewed on other people. I have chewed my own foot. I have chewed someone else's foot. Matter of fact, I've chewed my cud. I've chewed all kinds of things. I even took some blubber one time from a whale called muktuk. And in the Inuit, which is in Alaska, which most people think that, just to carry on the conversation for a moment, if you think that in Alaska, there are natives that are called Eskimo, well, you're right, but dare I say, if you visit Alaska, the smallest or one of the least likely people you're going to meet is an Eskimo. The majority of the natives in Alaska are Inuit, and there are 34 tribes in Alaska, and there are 39 registered tribes in Alaska, with each tribe with an individual and separate and distinctive language. And most people in the lower 48 don't know that. But, just thought I'd throw that out there for conversation's sake. So in conversations, what we want to do is talk about sticking our foot in our mouth, because, like I said, I'm really good at chewing on things, and I'm really good at sticking things in my mouth. I learned it when I was a little kid, when I was a baby. I'd stick everything in my mouth just to see what it tastes like. And I kind of used to do that for a long time in debating or discussions or talking or trying to relate to things. I used to stick things in my mouth and chew on it. And I used to open my mouth and chew on it. And I used to say things and have to chew on it. And I'm sure you've been there sometime. And that's kind of where I'm at right now. It's like, I've discovered I don't really like to stick my foot in my mouth. I've decided, I'm done with the thumb. And I know I went from my thumb to my foot. But, I've decided to get my foot out of my mouth too. I've decided I don't like sticking my thumb in my mouth, and I gave that up years ago. And after I got older, I decided I really don't like sticking other people's appendages in my mouth, whatever it may be. Let that go where it will. But I really don't want to stick my own foot in my mouth because, that's kind of what I did last night. And it's like every night I've been sticking my foot in my mouth in one way or another. I mean, every night that I've gone to church, that is. Because you see, what I really want to talk about is church. I want to talk about kind of where I'm at and where I'm going and what I'm doing, because I'm really enjoying it. But at the same time, I'm kind of like learning a lesson here that's really kind of like something I'm just not getting the message on. Call me a ding-a-ling or call me a ding-dong, but you know what? That wall I keep banging my head against. And what it is oftentimes I've discovered in watching other people, and I've been in the position of having people talk to me or talk with me or come for counseling or whatever it may be. or even teaching. I've taught people, and I've had them repeat to me, things that they think they heard, or that they, regurgitate the lesson or the plan or the summation or the perspective of what they're getting out of the material that's being presented in the information and the teaching, and been dumbfounded by it. And I've also been a Christian a long time, so I've also seen how the Holy Spirit can take something and just go way over in left field and use it, or take something from left field and use it. So I'm kind of pretty open to quite a lot of things that have been said to me. But it's oftentimes those things that you have to chew on that you really get the most meat out of, if you know what I mean. Because usually if you're chewing on your own foot, you're drawing blood, and sure enough, that's what I seem to be doing. So I was kind of interested, was that people have come to me at those times, they've talked to me and they've said things that I've gone, well, I hear the words they're saying, but what are they really communicating? And having discernment, I'm able to listen to them, and I've listened to some of the most unusual things said out of anybody's mouth that I've ever heard. Just dumbfounds me at times what we can say, how we can not only stick our foot in our mouth, but we can stick almost all the way up to our neck in our own mouth. I mean, we can really stick our neck out and shove it down our throat. Whew. Scares me sometimes to think about it, some of the things that have been said to me. But recently, I've been kind of like going to church, and I've been kind of going for a while now, and I've been like here on VidDevo, I share things and I teach, and I relate, and here comes a hummingbird. I know the Lord's here. I'm kidding. But anyways, said things, people, go, wow, cool, whatever. But if you'd have heard me last night, you'd have thought, what idiot are you? Really. I was like, I went to church and we had a fantastic Bible study. It was like awesome. The worship was awesome. The study was awesome. The message was great. But it's interesting because I come from the same place that basically Pastor Rich has come from. He comes from Calvary Chapel, Costa Mesa. I come from Calvary Chapel, Costa Mesa. I was probably there a few years before him, and left about the time that he probably arrived. I'm pretty sure, I'm not positive, but kind of know, same people, kind of things. He became a pastor, and I didn't. I was kind of like, missionary at large, kind of gone out, did my own thing, I guess you would say, or was sent out, because it's hard to say which it was, because in those days it was kind of like, well, okay, maybe I did it the wrong way. And all my life I've been kind of going, well, okay, but how come it doesn't work that way for me? Because you see, last night I was sitting here talking to a man, and he was, patient, he was loving and caring and everything that a man should be. He's been a man of God for a while, and he's been developed in this ministry, and Pastor Rich has taught some dynamic teaching, so obviously they're using that and getting that, and they're using and applying it in their lives, and you can see it in the fruit of their lives, of who they are. So I was talking to him, and I was trying to explain or relate or talk to this person about the message, because I was all excited about it. I was like, yeah, we were talking about Sardis, and how the Pastor Rich was bringing out things about how the church dies and how it could die, and how this ministry, we got to be careful, because although we're going through some neat things, what actually causes a church to die? It's kind of like, wow. And he brought out some really neat points that, I'm not sure that I've heard anyone else ever bring it out, because he mentioned it too in commentaries. I don't know how he does. Well, actually, I do know how he does his studies, because it's a very formalized way of doing studies, and it's very typical to systematic theology, and the idea of sitting down and coming to doing your background material, doing your foreground material, doing your in-depth material, doing your kind of assembling it all together. And on the one hand, you can train yourself to do things. On another hand, some people can do it naturally. Those are people with talent. Like when I was writing, someone told me that I had a talent for writing, so I got into writing. And when I was being trained to write, people kept saying, well, you're just doing it automatically. How do you do that? And I said, I don't know. That's the way it goes. It would just look like the way it should be. And so I had a talent for writing, so I assembled things without having to be taught how to assemble things. Like topic of the sentence structure, and the paragraph structure, and it comes back and it reiterates, and you build towards. But anyways, the point being is that there's a talent there. And some people that are talented can do things. Some people that are skilled can do things. There's craftsmen, there's journeymen, there's all kinds of ways of arriving at the same place. Different ministrations of the same Spirit, but the Spirit of God is the one that's in fact teaching us. And so Pastor Rich was really making a point that I went, because that's what I'm getting now from him, is like he's always making these points that I'm going, that's pretty cool. I like the way you got there. I was like, yeah, okay, God, you're talking to me. I was like, because it's like, yeah, I was like, I get to the same point. Not the way he does, though, and that's what I like, is that I'm still saying the same thing he is. Like, his basis is always the love of God. It's always manifestation of Jesus, period. Always about Jesus. Everything is about Jesus. Everything is pointing to, directed towards, about, and having relationship with Jesus. And everyone that knows VidDevo knows that's what I share. I'm sharing, relating, and talking about Jesus. I mean, you're not going to get very far, watching a VidDevo if you don't hear Jesus in it. Well, conversations maybe, but, sometimes, we talk about some topics, but there's thousands of VidDevos out there. You can find them on Google, and Google it and see, ooh, man, that guy likes to talk about Jesus. I'm like, well, yeah, because he likes to talk to me. And the funny thing was that this morning, that's what happened. I was sitting here, not going to record, and I did my devotionals, posting them and did all these other things, and I was kind of thinking, well, my wife's gone and I'm getting tired, and, Lord, I don't know, you just don't seem to be inspiring me to really record anything, and I said, yeah, I'll get back, by the way, in case you're wondering, if you have never been in conversations with me, or you haven't been in this type of venue, or seen any of my VidDevos, I can go into left field, right field, still get the same point from the right, still get the same point from the left, come back to each one and still build them up, and then come to a complete conclusion, being not that it's circular, or that it's out in the left field or right field, but that I don't forget. I just bring it back to, you'll see the point. And so, having said that, it was interesting because I had been tired, sitting there recording, doing stuff, and I get up pretty much early, 4 o'clock, somewhere around there, 5, stuff like that. Bingo, out there. And so I was doing all that, and I was done. I was like, okay, I'm tired. So I tried to get some calories in, try to get some, building up some energy levels, and try to, recover some health, all this stupid stuff that I don't like paying attention to, that other people pay a lot of attention to. Me, I'm like, I'd rather be teaching. So, I said, well, Lord, I should grab my devotionals, take a bath, Some of you see what's coming. A bath. Some of you don't know. But anyways, I grabbed 3 of my devotionals. I have about 9, I think, that I read per day. But anyways, I grabbed my devotionals. I decided not to take a Bible this time. So I grabbed my devotionals, jumped in the bathtub, and I was laying there, and I was thinking, oh, water feels so good, Lord. It's like, man, I just started winding and smiling and thinking, and God started talking, and I started going, uh-oh. Oh, you don't know that God talks to you? Oh, I'm sorry. You don't think God can talk to you in the bathroom? Oh, well, I'm going to blame this on Michelle Pilar. You see, I caught Michelle Pilar admitting on Facebook something that I admit all the time. She admitted that God speaks to her in the shower. And I believe her, because I know every time I get in the bathtub, pardon the expression, but I can't get God to shut up. So I don't know about you guys, but whoa, man. Maybe I'm weird, but hey, what can I say? And so usually what happens is that I'll come flying out of the bathtub, because I'll be laying there, I'll be thinking, I'll read, I'll start to read my devotion, I'll read them, but all of a sudden, as I'm reading my devotional, God starts talking to me. I was like, oh. I say, Lord, you want me to, tell people about that? And, God doesn't, get vague with me. He's like, yes, no, he's not maybe. He's, always very specific about some things, and I'm very, okay, about when he gets specific. So anyways, very specifically said yes, so I'm like, oh, wow. And I'm diving out of the bathtub. Wife's gone, so I could just run right out, half draped, and that thing. Oh, well, that's not good. So then I run back in the bedroom, and put on some swim trunks, and had my towel around me, and I'm like, cool, I can't wait to share this message, wow, and it's not even the message I'm recording right now. It's funny, the Lord told me to record some of it. But, about square pegs and round holes, which is what I'm going to talk about in conversations right now, too. It's kind of the same, kind of different. You'll see in the video. But the point is this. he spoke to me. I read my devotional, and I was like, oh, wow. So I jumped up, and I threw the towel around me, and I said, it's VidDevo, so we're just going to record it. And then God said, no, to me in a way that I understood. The camera wouldn't work. I was like, okay. Slow down. Went back in, got cleaned up, put on a t-shirt, put on I still got my swim trunks on, and kind of went, okay, maybe I'll just kind of do the styling routine, and kind of frizz the hair with the fingers, so that I look oh so cool, because we got to look cool, right? I mean, after all, we don't want to look like the way we get up every day, or do we? So, I got that done, and then I kind of saw on the internet that some people had prayer requests. So I went, oh wow, maybe I should pray, So I recorded the prayer requests, and I did my thing that I do for Facebook prayer team, and then prayed for them, and bingo, let that go. Then came out here, and set this all up, which is a little better angle and it's a little more secure. Now the camera's not being knocked over consistently, although I'll still knock it over sooner or later. But he was like, oh wow, and everything just fit and came together. So I went, feeling stupid. Because, lots of us get words from the Lord, and we run out and try to do it in our own strength, but we don't do it in the Lord's timing, or we don't do it in the Lord's way, or we don't do it in the Lord's will. And that's kind of what the point of this conversation is. I have absolutely no problem communicating. I've been a network engineer, I've been a administrative assistant, I've been an administrator, I've been manager, I've been all kinds of things in my life. I've definitely, writer and, published a book, and published things, and written music and all kinds of things. I've done all these things in my life because I wanted to, I figured I'd try it and see if I could do it. And it was like, yeah, you could do it. I was like, okay, cool, man, let's try something else. Because I get bored. But I was dumbfounded, by I all of a sudden went, shoom. This time I did go out into left field and got lost in the grass, and kind of waiting for the ball to fly, and went over the field. And it was like, I just hit a home run. And it was like, wow, it's gone. It's like, shoo, must be a sugar rush. Point being, so much so that I got carried away with what I wanted to do, that I wasn't doing what God wanted to do, so God slowed me down to accomplish the purpose that He wanted for me to do. And that's what we're doing in conversations, talking about how we often are getting our foot stuck in our mouth because we're not doing it what God wants us to do. And in all those jobs that I had, that I was starting to talk about, that I said I just hit the ball over the field, well, I caught the ball, now I'm beginning to tell you what it is that all my jobs, I've always been an effective communicator. If I needed to be articulate in a corporate setting, I was able to do that. If I needed to bring it down to the basics, of someone from the street, or someone from the heap, or someone that had cross-cultural communication challenges in regards to language barriers, or disability barriers, or learning barriers, no problem. I was good at it. Matter of fact, I was talented at it. And so it was a gift from God, I know that, and it is a gift from God. It's something that God can do in each and every one of us, but, some things are born, and some things are increased upon by way of the Holy Spirit. So, knowing that I am a communicator, I'm standing in front of this man. See, I told you I'd get back to the point. Standing in front of the man with my foot in my mouth. And I'm chewing myself just down to the ankle bone. And I'm just telling them about, how Rich's teaching was wonderful, and how I'm the physical ramification, I'm the physical manifestation of what he was talking about, man. I'm like it, I'm like the person that, it's like, well, I know you don't know me, but, it's like, man, I've been saved forever, So I'm trying to make a connection, I'm trying to, put the dots together and trying to relate to this man, because he asked me, how you doing? I said, pretty good, because they see me, kind of like in my weakened state, because I've just recently been ill and, kind of recovering. And so I sat down and I said, well, pretty good, I said, getting ready to move, I said, move? when are you moving? Because he doesn't even know that I'm there. I mean, he doesn't really know my name, a little bit, but, because he's seen me, but not much, and I know him. I mean, I assimilate information very easily. And, well, all the other gifts that go along with the Holy Spirit, word of knowledge, word of wisdom, all the other things. But we won't go there. But my point is that he's, like, oh, well, so then I sat down and started talking and started chewing on my knee bone. Yeah, I'm trying to insert my leg into my mouth. I mean, I'm shoving that thing just down just as far as I can, and I'm seeing just how far I'm going to get my legs before I finally, choke on my own mouth or my own body parts. So I'm talking, and God's talking to me at the same time I'm talking, and I'm going, Lord, I'm trying to communicate, and it just isn't really saying this. I'm talking about, I said, Rich is talking about this, and I said, man, I've been around a long time. You guys don't really know me, but I said, man, I'm just like, ready to explode. I said, I'm like wanting to just shout, but I said, I've seen you guys are all wonderful, and you're going on. I said, but I couldn't afford to go to the, like the men's prayer things, like everybody goes to, because right now the in thing is to go to the men's prayer meeting that's going on, the men's and the prayer meeting that's going on. Well, I can make a few meetings, church. I can make the Sundays and the Wednesdays, but really don't have the gas to go 30 miles, that far, because we don't have any income right now. And so it was like, financially challenged, the green stuff. And so one day I tried to ride the bike, and I rode the bike 21 miles to church in order to get there, because I wanted to prove if I could make it to the service just in case. I made it. Barely. Now it'd be a challenge. It took me about 2 hours. Now it'd take me about 4. But, I would do it, because I'm not going to miss. But my point is this. I was trying to explain to him who I was, where I'd come from, so that I could explain to him where I'm going and how I'm getting there. Really. I mean, that was a simple task. Where I came from, who I am, where I'm at, where I'm going. Because he had asked me, well, when are you moving to Utah? I was like, well, October. Oh, well, you don't really have a date. I was like, well, yeah, I kind of do. And I knew in my mind is flashing through all the different ministries that I've been a part of, all the different times that I've been moved around, all the different things that God has done with my life, all the things that God has done with me in someone else's life, all the different things that have been a joy of being, ministering and doing things and being, excited and happy. And then now I'm thrilled because God is crushing me this night, and he's just, crushing me this night. He had devastated me before this night, and now he summed it all up in the teaching that was perfect for people to really get a handle on, as far as the death of a ministry, or the death of a church, and death of a personal relationship with God, and how you can really, even though you're once saved, always saved, how you could be blotted out, and you don't want to mess with that, because, hey, a warning's a warning, and let God figure that one out, because that's the way it works. And how serious it was, and how much it was, and how good it was, and how I was thrilled about it, and how much I was enjoying it, how much it was a part of me, and how much I was like, wow, and all the explosion of what it could be applied to my life, and how it was so fitting because I'm being transformed into something new. And God's going, square peg, round hole. Square peg, round hole. You're really not getting the message here, are you? And I'm just listening to my own voice, my own kind of way of God speaking through me, my own personality. But it was God speaking to me, no doubt about it. Because I'm not that stupid, to talk to myself about that. Because, after all, I'm like any other man. I want to talk about myself. So by the time I got to my hip bone, and I'm really gnawing on my thigh, by the time I got to my thigh, I realized that, something's not quite working here. And God's really getting louder in my ear, I'm going, this is not the first time that I've really kind of not fit. And that's the point. It didn't fit. Nothing. No connections. No direct correlation. He was polite and he's friendly, and we, had that intimacy level of a superficial relationship that, you can have at a church. And, something that God spoke to me today in the bathtub, was that's what we were talking about, him and I, was that I was trying to cram in fellowship, or what we call the unity of the body of believers and the oneness that accomplishes through time, into 5 minutes. hi, how are you? How's it going? What you doing? How's your day going? How's your week going? Oh, let me pray for you. God bless you. Be at peace. Go, be filled. And that's basically what church is. I mean, I don't care how you summarize the fact of trying to make it fellowship. If you don't fellowship, you don't fellowship. And fellowship is more than, dare I say, getting your quick fix in on a Wednesday night or a Sunday night. Matter of fact, Romaine used to say, hey, look, if you got 5 minutes to visit with someone or you got 10 minutes to talk to someone, you already know how shallow your fellowship is. And I used to go, whoa. And he said, bluntly, one time in another place, you know how stupid it sounds when somebody asks me, how are you? And I thought, boy, this guy's really like kind of hitting every, pushing the buttons on everything, because you don't really want to know. And that's what he said. You don't really want to know. And I used that for years in the ministry whatever ministry I was in, to kind of like reiterate it for myself. And then also to try to break down the barriers or the superficiality or the surface things that we all do. And then in so trying to do sometimes those things, I stick my foot in my mouth. And that's what God was trying to tell me this night that happened last night was that. And what I've happened ever since I've gone to this church is I've always been trying to kind of like meet the pastor. I mean, really, to put it bluntly, I've been trying to go, hey, Rich, I'd like to kind of like, talk to you for a while. Where were you? What were you doing there? What went on? How cool was it? Did you know like Rick Boyer? Did you know T. Thornton? Did you ever go to the College of Career? I mean, did you know Chuck Missler? Did you ever visit with the tape lending library? Did you know Maddie and Eileen? I mean, I wanted to break down some barriers that I have to feeling so distant from somebody that seems to have the exact same message from a completely different perspective. Well, not even different perspective, from a completely different way of presenting. Because we weren't presenting anything different. Every day that I've been teaching, it's been like every time that I'm teaching something on VidDevo, it's like, he's there. He's like, he got the same message I got. Where did he get it from? I'm Holy Spirit, of course. But I mean, the way of presenting it, looking at God from, like I tell people, hey, God is love, and you can't tell me that God is love and then start telling me the God of wrath in the Old Testament. God is love, and God is love all the way through. Only he does it in a way that's very beautiful for a pastor. I mean, it's like one of those kind of like pastoral things, you kind of go like, whoa, hey, what Bible college you go to? Hey, cool, man, you're a product of that education, And I'm more like, inspiration comes and runs, with me, because it's like, wow, you want me to rap with you? I'll jap with you. We'll get it to what you're used to, so that you can get through to what you need to do. Or let me articulate that in a way that you can understand that, so that you'll be able to appreciate all of the ramifications of that with which the theological meanings can be applied to your understanding, so that you can bring out all the fullness of that with which you are grasping within your own vast awareness and knowledge. Or, to a Jew, hey, kavanah. Yeah, attitude of the heart. Hey, chill it. You need to get that attitude right. I know what the hamishpacha is, let's get real. Or, whatever it may be. Es gab mir da, Morigiska, even if it's Ankolesh Leden. That's the 7-Up commercial, by the way, in case you're wondering. Nothing spiritual there. But you see, while I was talking to the man, I wanted so desperately to connect. I wanted so desperately to be a part of. I wanted so desperately to let them know where I'm at and let them tell me where they're at. And it was a square peg in a round hole. I was trying to do something I'm not supposed to do. And so I need to shut up. Really. No, that's what we're having a conversation about. We're talking about, first of all, about sticking your foot in your mouth. Well, how do you quit sticking your foot in your mouth? You shut up. You didn't see that coming, did you? Trust me, I'm a master at opening my mouth. I'm just not so slick at the trick of shutting my mouth. Shut my mouth. Really. No, that's what it boils down to. You see, when you have a habit, a perspective, when you're in ministry or when you've been doing that with which we are doing at this moment, conversing, having a conversation, you're very able to communicate or to use words or to present words or to in some way bring from everywhere all the words into a dynamic way of presenting a puzzle piece and having all the pieces of the puzzle fit in a coordinated, beautiful 3,000 piece puzzle that looks like a picture. And you go, wow, I didn't see that coming. I saw the puzzle box, but I saw the picture, but I didn't think it would come together like that. And you go, sure enough, it works because all the pieces are numbered. Basically, you know how many there are, and you know how many that it takes to make the picture. So you put it all together. You know it's got to go together, so you keep working at it until you got it. Some people, with the words that they choose, use, and in some ways abuse, are able to do that when it's time and place to do that. And that's the point, that sometimes chewing on your own foot or sticking your foot in your mouth is the wrong place, doing the wrong thing at the right time. And I began to realize, when the message was done, God was trying to tell me something also out of all this. Because one of the things that I've done whenever I've tried to, talk to people that maybe I came from the same place at the same time, and maybe I don't have the credentials someone else has, or I don't have the huge ministry or the mini ministry or the, accolades, running behind me going, "Hail Caesar," or "Wow, cool," or "God bless you," or "Be at peace," or whatever maybe, and obviously, if you're in pastoral ministry, there are certain supportive ways with which the ministry continues to prosper in some ways with the support network that there is available. I mean, I don't know if all the pastors are using it, but it's available, it's out there. But sometimes some of us, like missionaries at large, once Rich was done with the message about churches that die, I felt kind of sick because I've watched a church die. Oh, I didn't kill it. God did. And it was a good thing. I've watched churches fail. I didn't do it. God did. And it was a good thing. I've watched churches succeed. I didn't do it. God did it. And sure enough, they succeeded. And I've watched in my life how God has changed me, rearranged me, made me into whatever He needed me to be for whatever moments or whatever person or whatever place or thing He needed me to be. I didn't do it. God did it to me. Because you see, Crohn's disease was both a blessing and a curse. Oh, it was a curse, as some people know, in the fact that it nearly killed me when I was younger. It abused me as I grew older. It confused me as I began to adapt. It went into remission after it had already created havoc to a huge degree in my life, so that the consequences of it, are still with me today, that cause ramifications that God can use in my life to not humble me, but to make me into who I need to be. Because you see, He can reshape me because of Crohn's disease. He can tenderize me at times because of Crohn's disease. Because of who I am with Crohn's disease, I have certain things that I have to wrestle with. Certain things I have to really have a personal intimacy with God that maybe you don't have. Because I take personal things said to me. Very personal, very real. You tell me that you think that, I'm off the wall, and you'll probably see me, cry or... well, okay, maybe not today, but, in the old days. But anyways, you know what I'm saying. Maybe. But, in the old days, even now, it's like, things that are said to me, I take personal. I take them as real. I take them as, God could be speaking to me. And so I have to examine that, and I have to ask God, and I have to say, Lord, I've got a shield of faith, those kind of things. But still, I take it personal. But at the same time, when I want to be a square peg in a square hole and be normal. I can't. Because you see, I can't be anything except what God made me. And you know, the reason I have a personal relationship with Jesus is because He has to remind me sometimes that He made me as I am. Because, I look at somebody like Pastor Rich and I think, wow, what a father. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, I can see his faults, I've got discernment, folks, I'm not naive. I don't do any hero worship. There is not a man out there that I have any hero worship about. Enough said, okay? So let's don't have that conversation. Let's communicate. But I have to be reminded by my personal, intimate friend when he's being friend to me, as opposed to Lord or Son of God or Son of Man. When he's being my friend, and he's talking to me on this level of my heart, he has to remind me sometimes that he wants me as I am. He doesn't want me to be like, what I see other people with families, that are whole. Whole. They don't have Crohn's, or they have all their guts in place. They have children, they have grandchildren, they have families, they have cars or houses or homes or ministries or, titles or whatever, I'm not an egotist. I don't want all the titles and stuff, but there comes a place where every man has a place that he wants to be, and he always wants to be like or have more. And I don't mean grass is greener on the far side of the hill kind of thing. No, I mean just the little things. I mean the very intimate things, the things that, like a poor sinner who just comes before God in all humility and says, "Oh God, have mercy on me, a sinner. For chiefest of sinners that I am. God, without your grace, I would perish." And Paul made that kind of statement, and people look at Paul as great, and yet he would say, "Wretched man that I am, who shall deliver me from this body of sin?" And so, for me today, sitting in the bathtub, knowing I had once again stuck my foot in my mouth and swallowed it all the way down to my throat, and I was choking on it. I was pretty bummed, pretty sad, pretty discouraged, because I kept thinking, "But Lord, I don't want to tell everyone, hey, look at me, look at what I do on VidDevo. Oh, hey, look at me, look at these, conversations. Oh, hey, look at me, Facebook. Oh, hey, look at me. Look at me? Me? It's not about me, Lord. It's about you." And I've always pushed that. I've always said that. I've always been that. Am I taking credit for it? And I had to have Jesus tell me, "No, you're not." I had to have Jesus come to me and say, "I made you to be you. You're a Michael's peg in a Michael hole." Not sure that works. Michael peg. But it works. You're Michael and Michael. And I made you Michael. And I went, oh, yeah. I'm Michael. Besides, Rich don't know Jewish. Huh. But he's got the same kind of character. It's like he loves making jokes. He's like, he tells these little. He's like, he did a beautiful one this last time at the study. I was like cracking up because I was thinking of me and VidDevo, and I was going, and he goes, you go to the picture shop, and he's got such a square kind of. He's a real interesting person. I'm just blessed by him in every way. I mean, it just cracks me up. I just think, man, you just want to love him. It's like, hey, you're cute. And he goes, said something about, you do the backlight and you go. And he had a way, and he's got this way of getting tender, getting soft, and then getting cute, and I can see why his wife fell in love with him. I'm not a man lover, trust me, but no, I'm just saying, there's a certain amount of goofiness that we all are capable of, and if you learn how to use it, praise the Lord. If you don't, well, being manly is not what it's about. Being like Jesus is what it's about, and some of you need to be tenderized. But my conversation I wanted to wrap up with is about keeping your mouth shut. Sometimes you really do. You need to shut up. You need to maybe not worry about what you think you want to be like or become or be about, but you need to just be still, be silent, and wait and watch and see what God will do. Because this morning, as I was blessed by God, and I wanted to come out and share, on this topic of, sticking your foot in your mouth and trying to make yourself fit, cramming yourself into, the pastor said I got to be some kind of volunteer, so I want to go volunteer in they desperately need children in the nursery. Teachers in the nursery. And you go in there and you make a complete idiot of yourself by sticking your foot in your mouth. Well, I'm not saying don't try it. Because, every church needs people in the nursery. But, not me. But, trust me, they'd throw me out of the nursery right after I got in there. One of the ways that I wanted to explain to my nieces and nephews the difference between what Jesus said, let your yes be yes and your no be no. So I said, I want to give you a practical demonstration, And my nephew, who was kind of like a ornery kid, wonder where he got that from. I said, well, head over to that wall, and, go over there and get ready to, you're not going to hit someone, but go over there and do something that you're not supposed to be doing. So he picked up a crayon, and he walked over there, and he got ready to mark it. And as soon as he lifted his hand with that crayon to the wall, as loud as I could, as deep as I could, and as strong as I could, and I have the ability, because I was on stage at one time, to project. I projected the eternal words that he will never forget. The words, no. And it was so loud, it was so strong, and it was so forceful that he literally jumped off 12 feet high, hit the roof, banged his head, and knocked himself out. Well, something like that. But my nephew remembers me, and he knows what no means. And he knows I mean it, because I don't change my mind. But the point being is that's why they don't put me in nursery. Well, I guess that won't work. Maybe there's an easier way first. Square peg, remember? Round hole. Foot in mouth. Chew on it. So, rather than trying to make yourself fit where you don't belong, learn to accept where you do belong. And that's what God was trying to let me realize and to adjust my tender side to just enjoy what He has done in my life, to open myself to converse when it's time, to say, hey, you can't get fellowship in 5 minutes of church. I've spent 40 years in developing and being developed by God in ministry and in my relationship with the Lord. I may be Christian longer than that. I can't, let me think about it. I might be 50 years, but I'm not sure. No, 40 years. That's right. Okay. What am I thinking? Turning 58, so 40 years as a Christian. So, I'm 40. Yes, I'm older than that physically, but, I'm a 40-year-old Christian. And you don't cram that into 5 minutes, and say, well, I've been here, present a resume, and kind of, oh, yeah, that covered it. And then you think you're going to connect. You're not. But because I was leaving and I was going and I'm still leaving and I'm still going and I'm going to be, I so wanted to, at least touch base and, connect. It won't happen. As a matter of fact, I realized more than anything else, in the same way that I feel like I know Rick and we have not talked because of all the things he shares in the pulpit and shares as he's dealing with people around him. the same thing is true at VidDevo. People that watch the videos of VidDevo and conversations and communication of all these different ways, like perspective and all these other things that I do on the internet ministry, are going to be more, will know me more, even possibly than, well, my wife watches them. Sorry, but in a lot of ways more than my sisters or my family or friends that maybe I have, not so many. They're all gone somewhere, seems like. But you, by way of the Holy Spirit, will know me more than a lot of people that think they know me and don't know me at all. And even those that I would want to know. God was telling me the same thing that, I said to someone else a long time ago. That I would say the reason why Pastor Rich or Joe or other people that I have some level of communication and connection with will probably never watch a VidDevo or know me really, is they must be about their Father's business. They must be doing the things that God has called them to do. Just like you. Know ye not that must be about your Father's business? So, if you've been sticking your foot in your mouth a lot, and you know what sucking your toes like, or chewing on your kneecap, or swallowing or choking in your own hip bone, dare I suggest that maybe you're trying to cram something in that doesn't belong there? Bet you wonder how I got that in there, huh? You're thinking, wow, that's right. If you're sticking your foot in your mouth, it doesn't belong there. So it's like a square peg in a round hole. Oh, square peg, round hole, foot in mouth. I get it. You're not supposed to stick your foot in your mouth. Bingo! You're trying to do something you're not supposed to do. You're just suddenly aware of it by your mouth. Just like Jesus said. It's not the things that go into the mouth that condemn you. It's the things that come out. And you know what? Dare I say, once you yank that thing out of your mouth, you're going to have something better able to put in your mouth than your foot. Maybe you could eat and drink and be merry. Not because tomorrow we die, but because you need to be sustained by the Word of God. You need to be refreshed by the living waters. You need to enjoy and taste and see that the Lord, He is good. And so, I know, by way of what God has done in my life and what God does, hey, it is all about Jesus. It's easy, because when I do my thing every day, I don't get done things unless He's doing it. And so I am so happy to have, again, let go, of trying to, chew on my foot and stick that square peg in a round hole and try to force fellowship in where it shouldn't be, because it can't happen in 5 minutes, you see, or in 5 days, or in 5 weeks, or in 5 months, or 5 years, when you're only limiting it by the amount of time you want to be superficial about it. If you really want to get to be where God brings you into fellowship, you have to let Him do it. And that's the end of this conversation. Or maybe it's just the beginning.